it's Jordan Frank getting us off the ground, but he is doing real life things. Congrats to him and his family. Got a new addition, but we got Nolan to sub in. Thanks for joining me, my man. What's going on?
What's happening? Lots to talk about this week. Yeah, congrats to Jordan. Looks like he's doing well, so I'm sure he'll be back at our tomorrow or next weekend for you guys. But we got loads to talk about betting wise. The NFL season is upon us. College football, does that start like tomorrow? It's always catches me by surprise how early it starts.
It really sneaks up on you. So yeah, we have a ton to talk about. We're gonna hop around a couple different things. Nothing too crazy today. I do want to say right off the top, our friends at EV Analytics sponsoring the show, which we always appreciate. Shout out to them. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we're gonna keep it pretty casual today. We got chat ready to go. The first thing, obviously, because I guess I get to choose this. I'm sticking to golf first, right off the bat. We got BMW Championship in full swing. It's a non-cut, so it's not as normally on the show. I'm sweating bullets trying to get my guys through the cut. We don't really have to worry about that today.
No
Have
cuts,
you
but
keeping an eye on it at all?
I have been. I didn't play too much this week because NFL preseason is just all consuming
Yes.
this time of year. So it's pretty tough getting those articles out, and the golf focus tends to go away a little bit. But I was just telling you before the show, I made one bet, and it was on Lucas Glover. So I'm pretty happy. That should keep things interesting for the rest of the weekend. But it's looking like Jason Kokrak's -2 today. He's got a one-stroke lead. Who you liking so far? You got any value bets?
So it's going to be changing. Obviously, everyone's teeing off as we speak. The one guy who I thought he played actually better than he scored was Ricky. Came in at -5, didn't really putt as well as we're used to seeing with him. Coming off that ugly miscut, I see him around 20-1 in the live markets right now. Only a couple shots off the lead. Obviously, he hasn't even teed off today beyond plenty of time. Looking at him, Decky is on the course right now, and he looks to be getting back maybe to some Hideki form. He's 1 under through 3 holes. Again, this is very early on a Friday, but I still see him in the mid-30s
Oh,
for an
that's
outright.
pretty good.
So not bad. There are certainly plenty of chasers that you can go to.
He was also, so I'm just looking at the strokes gained tee to green stats from yesterday, and as per usual with Matsuyama, he was sixth in strokes gained tee to green and 64th in strokes gained putting. So I don't know if you like to target in tournament stats like that, or if it's just too small of a sample size. I don't know what the data says, but I mean generally that's the consensus among golf touts is you target the tee to green guys and hope that the putting corrects at some point during the tournament. So if that's your thing, I think Matsuyama is probably the best bet. And then close to him, I think your boy Fowler as well. He's ninth in strokes gained tee to green through one. So -5, 4 shots back. I don't hate that at all.
Yeah, that's always a hot topic. And I think really, obviously, like you said, it's a short sample. It's not like, oh, he putted bad Thursday, he's going to putt good Friday. I will say one of the things that I always like to clarify is I like to do that, especially with notoriously good putters. You look at someone who's an awful putter, like Griot. Take Griot. Not that he's in contention, but if he putts bad on Thursday, he's probably just going to putt bad on Friday
Yeah,
because he always
yeah,
putts bad. But someone like Ricky, more often than not, they can correct it on the greens. Not that he was bad putting yesterday, but we've seen
no,
him get crazy hot many times. He's one of the best putters in the world on bent
yeah.
grass. So I'm more apt to dive into a putter who maybe started slow on the greens.
That makes total sense to me. What some of these odds are really weird. I was just looking at like Rory McIlroy 14-1, he's -3. And then there are other golfers. I mean, I know there's a huge talent discrepancy like between him and some of these other golfers, but Keegan Bradley is at the same number is 150-1. That seems crazy to me. I would bet Keegan Bradley at 150-1 over Rory at 14-1. What say you on stuff like that?
Again, it's tough because you look at Rom, you look at Rory. They really didn't do much. They're still, of course, in the hunt, and their odds they're still practically the favorites. Um,
Hmm.
in a field like this, where everyone's getting 72 holes, you have plenty of time to make it up. I liked attacking that mid range, kind of the happy medium. Keegan certainly uphill battle on the talent. Rory and Rom, the odds are just a little much for kind of a so-so start. That Ricky, Decky, you're getting some bang for your buck, with the pretty good odds. And they also clearly have if you stack them up just talent wise, I'd say they're certainly in the upper half of a field like this.
Yeah, exactly. And you never know. Keegan's always one hot putting
Just
day away from
betting
getting in
betting
contention.
is a dangerous game, as you just mentioned. It takes years off your life.
So many times, so
The
many
last thing
times.
I want to say on the golf, and then we'll get into what most people want to talk about, which is football. I get it. The course was so soft yesterday, they tore it apart. Basically, everyone shot under par. It was the easiest opening round of the entire year. Almost 3 strokes under par for the field. Just
That's
insane.
nuts.
Yeah.
And like this is a behemoth course, isn't it? Like 7,600 yards.
Yep.
That's surprising to me.
It's just one of those things that when they can attack the greens and they're so soft, you can flag hunt the entire tournament, and that just makes scores nuclear.
Yeah, fair.
Um,
I got one more guy I want to run by you. He led the field in strokes gained, ball striking, second in tee to green. You know who I'm talking about?
I don't.
Little guy named Joel Damon.
Oh boy, the bucket hat man. What do you think about him?
80-1 right now. 80-1. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to pull the trigger. I think that's more of a wait and see thing. But yeah, he's probably just sucking in with one good round. He's such a odd golfer. I swear, there's no other golfer in DFS that's like if he's chalk, you just fade, and he just delivers. Like he screws up and misses the cut, and it's great. And when he's not, he's pretty solid tee to green. So I don't think that's a terrible bet at 80-1 with him just 3 shots back, having yet to teed off. But what do you think?
It's a guy that, again, talent wise, little much. You have to, if you can hear that, they've got leaf blowers outside my window who will be gone in just 1 second. But Joel Dahman, I don't think he can hang in to win the tournament, but someone that we've seen, you mentioned the T degree game, he's got the cool hat. I can dabble with him, maybe on a weekend golf slate, something like that.
Yeah, take a wait and see approach.
I think so. More often than not, a guy like that over 72 holes just can't really hang in.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But we'll see. Like I said,
any bombs?
Yeah. Everyone who's here, obviously, this is the top players in the FedEx Cup. Even the guys towards the bottom, it's not like they don't have talent. It's just a lot of big names, a bunch scoring system. It's tough to ask them to hang in against all these top end guys.
Yeah, going to be tough to make up like 9 strokes on Justin Thomas or something, right? So
absolutely. But that's really all I got. I mean, you want to get to? I know you've been keeping an eye on preseason. What did you do last night?
I took a bath. That's what I think last night. I think I'm not gonna play NFL preseason DFS anymore. Like it's just so hard to predict. Like Miles Boykin goose egged. He was like the favorite. He was owning like 60%. So I think I'm gonna revise my strategy. It's a bit of a learning process with preseason DFS if you haven't done it before. Sometimes the chalk hits and sometimes it doesn't, just like normal DFS. But the thing is, the predictability is way harder. Like you're just guessing. It's so much guesswork. And so I think the right strategy moving forward is to possibly enter less teams and just kind of fade the chalk and sort of pick and choose some guys that are going into the radar. Because I think all of the consensus tout picks yesterday just did not deliver. Like it was brutal, especially with is it Cody Kessler going down with the concussion? I think that's right.
There's
So yeah, like it was just a nightmare. But yeah, like in terms of a football perspective, it's just nice to have it back. Got to see some Kyler Murray in action. Hopefully his lackluster performance lowers his draft stock a bit because he's going a little bit too high for my taste. What were your takeaways?
That was really, I mean, I watched a bit of my Jets. I guess I can call them my Jets, and Darnold looked good. But then I flicked it to Oakland and the Cardinals, obviously. And I think just like anything, one good drive, the pendulum swings wildly optimistic, awful performance last. And now everyone's like, oh, Kyler Murray's done. You know how it gets way too crazy. It's one game, a half worth of ineffective drives. I'd be lying if I said the Cardinals looked anything besides just abysmal. But at the same time, you mentioned it. Obviously, we're pumping out preseason content, and it's very difficult to research. It's really about trying to dig, listen to the beat writers, but their guess is as good as anyone's. These coaches are making decisions on the fly. So obviously, if you are playing, hop in our Slack, keep an eye out for our blog. We'll all be dropping some notes there throughout the week, but it's really just an appetizer for once the season gets started, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. It's been fun. Like I feel like it's great prep, and it's nice to get back and doing some NFL DFS. I've steered away from the betting markets because I feel like Vegas is guessing. It seems like every total is minus the home team gets a -3 pretty much, and the total's around like 40 points. So, it's pretty much just spinning the roulette wheel. I mean, maybe if you can find an edge, great. Power to you. I personally have not been able to find any edge in any kind of betting. So.
No, I mean,
Um, but I do find though that so far, I think the lower total games have been a little bit predictive. So we've seen like yesterday, the Jaguars and Eagles was their total was I think the lowest on the slate. I think Philly had a 14 implied total and Jacksonville was 17. So and that went under. Last I checked, I didn't check the final, but I'm assuming it went under. So, like it seems like maybe the way to do it, especially if you're playing DFS or you're betting, is just to like kind of look into those Vegas lines because I mean they're probably a lot sharper than the rest of us, right? So,
just a little bit. Yeah, I'm certainly not looking or advocating betting preseason. What me and Jordan really have been talking about a bunch in the show, and I'm interested to see if you have any thoughts, is are there any teams kind of in the futures market or just for the season that you think that you're kind of high on? You and me have done a lot of team previews on the fantasy side. Obviously, Chad, check out those videos. Me and Nolan have been working for season long. But are there any teams kind of in the betting market that you think maybe can make a run this year or that you're pretty optimistic on?
so one team that stood out to me so far is the Atlanta Falcons. I think their odds are a little bit off. I've seen them as high as 40 to 1 to win the Super Bowl, which I like a lot. Their over/under win total is 8.5, and that's at -120. Their division odds, I believe, are let me just check +400, and the Saints are -200. So I think there are a lot of things that I like about them. First and foremost, their defense is healthy again.
Yep.
So they were devastated by injuries last year. They lost Keanu Neal, they lost Deion Jones, they lost Ricardo Allen. They fell from ninth in yards allowed in 2017 to 28th last year. So that's a huge um, uh, downgrade from them just solely based off of injuries. And I would expect that their defense would rebound to at least middle of the pack this year. Then you look at the offensive side of the ball, and pardon me, they have really improved their offensive line. They signed James Carpenter from the Seahawks. They drafted Chris Lindstrom, guard out of Boston College, who might start and has looked good in camp. They traded back into the first round and grabbed Caleb McGarry, who may start at right tackle out of Washington. He's a behemoth. So I don't know. Usually those guys take a little bit of time to develop, but they've got a lot more depth on the offensive line. Their entire starting offense is healthy. They have so many weapons. Calvin Ridley is back for his second year. Julio Jones. I like Austin Hooper a lot. He's just 24 years old. I don't know why people in fantasy aren't high on him. Matt Ryan's Matt Ryan. They get 13 games inside of a dome this year.
That's
And they had what's that?
Yeah, that's insane. They don't play outside till November.
I know. I love that. I love that stat. And they are a dome team. So there are some really positive trends, I think, for the Falcons. And I'm surprised that people aren't betting them at all. And they had 7 wins last year with this defense. So they're at an 8.5 total. I don't really see it being that difficult. They do have the seventh hardest strength of schedule this season, so that is something to factor in. But I just went through their schedule and like you can pretty much count on 7 wins, and then you've got about 5 or 6 toss-up games. So if they can go 4-2 in this division, I think 9 wins is a lock.
That's a team that I've talked about at length. I put some articles together that'll be up on the site, really breaking them down, similar to what you talked about. I think the return of Deion Jones is gigantic. It's a team that thrives inside. They get that, and honestly, it's only a couple years removed. They easily could have a ring. I know it doesn't work like that, and they blew it. But at the same time, I think the core of that team is still intact in a lot of ways. Obviously, Matt Ryan is still there, Julio, Dan Quinn. So there's no reason that they can't compete. Now the Saints are a tough ask. I understand that. You also have Carolina, who's if Cam is healthy, certainly I think they have some ceiling potential. But at the same time, the Falcons really are a dangerous team and one that could make this NFC South one of the more competitive divisions. Tampa may have some issues, but other than that, you got 3 teams I think all could make some noise.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is the most exciting division in football. So I can't wait to watch some Atlanta, New Orleans, Atlanta, Tampa. Like these games are going to be shootouts, so
No doubt.
it's going to be a lot of fun.
They have a tough, just not that, and we're gonna obviously on the show, we're trying to savor it, but week one is still a couple weeks. But they open tough game at the Vikings, 4 point dog. I see that's a tough ask, but at the same time, there's no reason they can't go in there and grab a win, and that would pay. I think you would put that in one of those. You mentioned kind of looking at their schedule. That's one of those toss-up kind of games where if they can just get some of those, they're going to have a successful season.
I got a little nugget for you for week 2.
Oh,
possibly a little nugget bet.
Look at that.
The Packers, I believe. Let me just double check and make sure I'm not totally wrong here. The Packers play the Vikings
Okay.
in week 2. The Vikings had one of the largest differentials between their play action defense and their defending play action and non-play action. I think they're near the bottom of the league in defending play action and near the top of the league at everything else. Packers' new head coach, Matt LaFleur, ran play action at the 5th highest rate, I think, last year in Tennessee.
Okay.
So that's kind of like my sneaky little hot take. Get a bet in early when that line opens up, and it's going to be like probably Vikings favorite, I'm guessing. So
If it's in Minnesota, for sure.
What's that?
Yeah, I said if it's in Minnesota, obviously the Packers open with the Bears. Easily could be starting 0-1, and the Vikings, like we just mentioned, play Atlanta. So I'm sure the spread will dictate with that. And that's another division that I don't really have any strong takes on, but certainly one to kind of keep an eye on. There's definitely going to be some noise. You've got 3 teams, and then the Lions, who are kind of in a little rebuilding mode. But
well, let's talk about the Lions. Actually, I got some hot takes on the Lions.
Wow. Are you into the Lions this year?
Well, I don't really. This isn't really my personal take, but I was just reading Aaron Schatz from Football Outsiders, and their model has gives the Lions a 25% chance of winning the division, which is second behind the Bears. So I was really shocked to see that. I think their argument for it is pretty good. They're going to have a better. Matt Stafford had broken bones in his neck. They've got some stronger tight end play. There's usually some improvement from a year 1 head coach to a year 2. Their defense is probably pretty underrated. They were 13th in DVOA against the run and 31st against the pass. But they've got Darius Slay there, so I don't know why that is. They should be better against the pass. But they're 10-1 odds right now to win that division. It's not a bet you feel good about, considering you got the Vikings, Packers, and Bears in there, but you're getting 10-1 odds. So I think like if you're going to take a deep shot division winner, I kind of like going to the Lions.
Wow, that is a hot take.
Right.
That's why we bring you on the show, because I don't have the guts to say things like that.
I hope Alex is listening right now.
The Lions, they are. I mean, you kind of just said it. They got 6 division games, and none of them are a gimme. None of them. If they can just hold their own, that'll go a long way for their season. Because
4th place schedule too.
Yeah, it's now on the flip side. I think Matt Patricia certainly is a dark horse to get fired. I know he's only in his second season, but I could see it coming undone pretty quickly there.
You might want to wait to make that bet too. Like they have the Cardinals, they go to Arizona in week 1, but then they get the Chargers, Chiefs, and Eagles, Packers, Vikings.
That's what I'm saying. Can they survive that? Can they be 3-3? That would be a huge ask.
I take everything I just said back, because they're going to come out of that like 1-5.
Well, that's the thing though. With it, obviously, it's a binary situation. Every game they win in the division, that's why they're so lucrative. Those games, the other teams are losing. It's just, can they do it? Obviously, I'll say this. If I had to make a case for the Lions, it would be that Kerryon Johnson explodes if he can stay healthy. I think he's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. You were seeing his stock rise hugely in fantasy drafts since the Iridic was cut. So I know Alex likes him a lot in his rankings, and this offense is underrated, I think, a little bit. So I like Marvin Jones, Galladay, if maybe Hawkinson, Jesse James is decent. So it's just really the loss of Golden Tate that they're dealing with. So
Fair enough. I gotta, it's a requirement on this show. When no matter who comes on, I have to ask them what they make of this Browns team, because this is the team that's getting all the buzz. I'm not a
Yeah.
fan. What do you think about them?
I was looking at those odds for the division as well. I haven't looked at their over under yet, but let's see here. So they're at 9,
Yep,
and they finished what, 7 wins last year? 7 and a tie.
7 more than most
So
years.
the thing that stood out to me, and the thing that I think I might actually bet is I'm looking. I've seen Baltimore for the AFC North Division at plus 225, anywhere from plus 225 to plus 250, and the Cleveland Browns have become a public team almost, I think,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and they're plus 130 to win the division. So, Baltimore, I mean, they didn't improve as much as Cleveland this year, not, they didn't add an Odell Beckham, but they greatly improved their wide receiving core. They got a second year of Lamar Jackson, and he was actually really underrated, I think, as a passer last year. And he's going to improve. Mark Andrews is probably going to improve. The defense is strong. They added Mark Ingram. Justice Hill looks really explosive. So this team has a lot of weapons on offense and one of the best defenses in the NFL. And they're the defending champions. Why are they the third most likely to win this division? I don't really get that. So I think that's a really good value bet. What do
That's
you think?
that's where I'm at. It's not even, people naturally equate like, oh my God, you don't like the Browns, you think they're awful. No, it's not that at all. It's the price dictating this. The
Yep.
the Ravens are a significant dog in terms of what we're seeing. Obviously, we preach here, and everyone should be preaching this. You want to shop around for the best lines. We certainly are going to try to provide resources with that. And like you mentioned, across the market, they're in behind the Steelers, certainly squarely behind the Browns, who are the favorite. And to me, that's
Mm-hmm.
misguided. I'm not saying that the Browns aren't vying for this division, but to be a significant dog, I'm with you. I'm not a huge Lamar Jackson guy, but there's no doubt he's got some talent if they can build the offense around him. If Hollywood Brown, if they can connect just to keep defenses honest over the top, kind of what John Brown was unable to do last year, that'll go a huge way because we know the rushing attack, the time of possession is going to be in the Ravens' favor. And then on a side note, this is really nothing to do with what we're talking about. I saw the Ravens have won 14 straight preseason games. Did you see that last night? They
No, that's
preseason
nuts.
apparently. I don't know why that is, but yeah, they won again last night. Lamar
Probably
Jackson.
just speaks to the depth of the organization and I guess a little bit of luck. But wow, that's amazing.
It's interesting. So I'm with you. Obviously, Browns extremely talented. There's still some unknowns, and then the Steelers are just lurking. I don't really have a strong take on them, but I'm kind of with you in this Ravens boat. I think that they can certainly challenge, and at the odds that I'm seeing, I have absolutely no problem saying the Browns are maybe the future, but not right now.
Yeah, absolutely. What any other bets sticking out to you as
You know,
values in the divisional market?
So one thing I looked at, and we talked a little about the Chargers last week, and I actually want to swerve just a little bit. I'm not even sure I'm going to fire. I haven't on it yet, full disclosure. But Philip Rivers for MVP, I think
Oh, give them the MVP odds. I like it.
I think you can make a case for that, and it's actually partly due to the situation. When you look at MVPs, there's a pretty basic formula. Only three running backs in a long, long stretch now have even won it. It's basically a quarterback every year, and
Mm-hmm.
the teams that these players are on, it's minimum of 10 wins. So you're really looking for a top end quarterback on a top end team. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
someone like Mahomes, someone like Breeze, they stick out. But I'll say this: if Melvin Gordon doesn't, say he holds out, if the Chargers are able to take down that division, Philip Rivers is going to be in that discussion. You're getting him at nice odds in the market. He's certainly not one of, you have the Lux and Mahomes leading the pace. He's in that next tier. I think you can make a very strong case that the defense and him are still able to get the Chargers where they want to go.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's not bad, especially like if he beats out Mahomes somehow. If the it's a good bet, I think, because if the Chargers win the division, it means Rivers is probably gonna have a great season, and it means he beat out Mahomes, so that's gonna be a tick in his favor. And Mahomes is plus 500 as the favorite. So I like the logic behind that a lot. I just took a first glance here, and Deshaun Watson stood out to me as well at 20 to 1. I think that's probably a pretty good bet. And then you got Jared Goff maybe at 40 to 1. Those are a little bit interesting.
Deshaun Watson is someone that, the injuries and things like that have derailed some of his upside. But we know if this guy can put together a full season, once again, it's kind of the same situation for me as the Chargers. They have to beat out the Colts. But if they do, I don't know how it's not because of Deshaun Watson. So it almost goes hand in hand. It's a big ask for these teams. But if the Texans win the South, Deshaun Watson's going to be in the MVP conversation. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew Luck, we don't know what's going on with this calf, and Deshaun Watson has put together some Mahomes-esque numbers in shorter stints, smaller sample sizes over the course of his short career. But if he can stay healthy, and if that wide receiving core is healthy, it's really going to come down to offensive line play. I think for the Texans, if he can get the ball out quicker, I think he held onto the ball at the longest rate in the entire NFL last year. So maybe if they can work on getting the ball out a little bit quicker and improving their offensive line, maybe a trade for a Washington tackle, then I kind of like that bet at 20-1.
Do you have any love? Because the guy that maybe could buck the trend would be Saquon in all the trends, because there's no way to me that the Giants are getting to 10 wins, and he's obviously not a quarterback.
Where's he at? So he's at 50-1.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Giants were to win, I think here's the logic on that one. It's like if you're looking at making a division bet, the Giants are 14-1 or something. If the Giants were to win the division, you'd have to think that Saquon Barkley had one of the greatest seasons of all time. And if he has one of the greatest seasons of all time, he's going to be in the MVP conversation. And that means 50-1 is probably a little bit better than 14-1. So that's the bet I would make if you want to get some Giants action for sure. I don't think they're winning this division, but
no, that's the thing. If you're banking on him, he's going to have to do something numbers wise that's just never been done, because the trends that we've seen for MVPs, he's not going to hit. The Giants, they're not going to win that division. They're not going to be there. And that's really the formula. You don't see, and it's kind of like the Heisman, where you just don't see guys, even with big numbers, really taking that award down without team success.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit worried about that offense too. I think they don't have their field stretcher anymore, OBJ, and they've just like accumulated as many slot receivers and inside receivers as they can. I think they're going to push Shepard outside. That's what I heard last I checked, but he hasn't been productive outside. So and then who did they lost one of their perimeter wide receivers?
The other Shepard.
What's that? Oh yeah, is that who it was? Yeah, somebody went down. I can't remember. So I don't know how this defenses are just going to be like within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. It's going to be 8 in the box every time Eli Manning's throwing the ball, and I think defense is going to dare him to it. So I think Saquon Barkley's amazing, and I'm sure he'll find a way to generate some numbers, but I think it's going to be a little bit harder for him this year.
It's tough. They're going to need someone like Evan Ingram, I think, to really emerge to keep them honest. They start. That game is off the board. They're at Dallas in week 1. I'm sure they're hoping they don't have to worry about Zeke on the other side. We'll wait and see on that. But I'm more apt to say, you know what, I'm not going to try to be, it's like Julio. It's like a wide receiver is not winning MVP. I just don't see it. I know he's unbelievable, but I'm not going to try to blaze a new trail. I'm going to stick to what we know. Quarterbacks on top teams, whether that's, and the odds reflect that, but they reflect the obvious teams, the Colts, the Chiefs, things like that. I'm going to take that next tier with something like that and kind of see if we can get a surprise team. Someone is going to sneak a division, that's a little unexpected.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this is the fun of the division market. There's going to be that upside somewhere. Corey Coleman, that's the guy I was thinking of.
Oh yeah, that poor guy can't catch a break.
Yeah.
It's not good. Really I think we all are saying. I mean, even the most optimistic people for the Giants, not super optimistic. So we'll see with Saquon. I'm not really there with that. So that's really kind of what I want to say. Like I said, I'm just looking. It's amazing how many teams, the season gets started and there's going to be a lot of narrative. So if you're in Canada, like our friend here, you have a lot of options in terms of bets. If your books still allow you to bet divisions as the season goes on, you can try to take advantage of overreaction after 1 week. There are certain teams like the Chiefs, they go to the Jaguars. That's a tricky game. A couple teams are going to get tripped up. If you like one of those favorites, you can take the plunge and kind of hope they lose week one, and you can buy them back at certainly a discounted price.
Yeah, like the Colts last year, a great example. What did they start 1-5 or something? So
Yeah,
and then in the division.
always slow starts that get on. I mean, the Packers seem to notoriously do that every year. They need to
Yeah.
win like 7 straight. And they're always somehow in the mix. So don't overreact to 1 week. I'm not going to get crazy. It's not like college football where you lose and sometimes you're just straight eliminated. That's a little different. This is more of a marathon than a sprint, even though it's only 16 games, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other teams that you want to touch on before I give a couple minute spiel on my college? Just because I'm feeling the college fever here. I got to talk a little about it.
I think like just one last bet. I think I'm with you on the Rivers thing. I think I do like them at plus 210. I'm not a big fan. I think Warren Sharp's done a good job of detailing how inefficient their play calling is, but they might have the most talented roster in the entire NFL. So Chargers plus 210. I'd take that over the Chiefs at minus 189. That would be the other division bet that I would lean towards.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me on the Chargers. Ingram and Bosa, obviously one of the best tandems, if not the best, in terms of ends in the league.
Yeah.
Derwin James is a serious problem for offenses. Only a second year, he's going to be a star. They've got people all across. Hunter Henry returns from
Yeah.
ACL. The weapons should be there. And listen, I'm not saying that Melvin Gordon's not great because he is. But Eckler and Jackson will do enough to keep that team afloat if he's gone. And if they get him back, it's all systems go. So,
Yeah.
it's running backs. I think we all know that they can be the loss can be somewhat mitigated.
Oh, for sure. I think Eckler is pretty much gonna. I actually don't think they'll lose anything without Gordon.
And then the one other place that they did lose, Tyrell Williams, which I think will be a factor, but they still have Mike Williams. Obviously, Keenan Allen is just a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and Hunter Henry will take some of those targets as well. So, and Travis Benjamin is still there to stretch the field if needed. So, I think Travis Benjamin will kind of take on that Terrell Williams role and 3 wide receiver sets, and you add Hunter Henry, who could be one of the sneakiest plays in your fantasy drafts this year. So, that's a really stacked team. They're just, I think their lack of analytics and their lack of efficient play calling is going to hurt them on the long run. But they're a serious threat for the division title.
Oh, absolutely. And the Chiefs, I think we all know that they're extremely talented. That seems like a 2-horse race. I'm not a believer in the Raiders, and the Broncos just seem like they're spinning their wheels right now. So yeah, I'm. That's really all. Like I said, when I look at it, obviously, Nolan, we're gonna have plenty of content from you. Me and Jordan in the coming weeks are gonna get into Week 1 specifically, talk some of those lines. And like I said, we're doing the fantasy perspective, the season long content, which has really helped. It's amazing how intertwined all this stuff is.
Yeah, for sure. It really is. Like I've enjoyed doing these previews. They're take a lot of time, but they're still worthwhile. Like to just kind of have that helps you out with both betting and fantasy. So yeah,
It really does.
We're almost done.
We really are. We're taking down the NFC West, and we're going to put out those videos next week. We'll have all the team previews up on the site, and then the betting content will be dropping. Which again, it all fits into that same narrative. You want to be trying to find the value. You want to be smart and try to just identify things that maybe we can take advantage of. But for people like me, football starts before the NFL. It's amazing. The season kicks off a week from tomorrow, the 24th, with Florida and Miami. Then we got games throughout the week. I'm not going to get crazy into individual games. If you're part of our Slack chat, we have a sports betting channel. We're all going to be in there talking about that, and I'll get into the specifics. I will just say similar, maybe not so similar to the NFL, but with Alabama and Clemson kind of seeming that they're just going to keep matching up in the playoffs. I'm interested to see who can knock on the door. For me, it's Michigan. I'm just going to say that right now. I like the way they set up. They can never get past Ohio State. This has to be the year for Harbaugh. Shea Patterson's back. They've got all the tools. They've got the defense. They get Ohio State at home in Ann Arbor. Just do it. Find a way to punch your ticket to the 4-team playoff and go from there. But I am really excited for the season. And, with so many games, really for betting, I think there's. I mean, I'm not saying I know there's more value in college. The lines are less
Mhm.
sharp because there's 60 games in some weeks.
Yeah, it's got to be so much harder for them to take all these factors into account. I hit on Kyler Murray last
There,
year. I think it's 35 to 1 or something. Do you have that was I can't take the credit though. Do you know add-on
of course,
XX
very sharp guy.
where
He's a golf guy
he
as well and had a big score recently. So if you happen to be watching the show,
yeah,
congrats, man.
yeah.
Um, yeah, the Heisman is
Any
similar.
deep shots?
Yeah, it's tough. So we'll get. I'll talk a little about that, and then we'll bounce on out of here. We got Tua, obviously leading Alabama, and we've got Trevor Lawrence, who can't come out in the draft, even though he would be the number one pick because he's a true sophomore, leading Clemson. They're clearly the favorites in the Heisman, and it's really going to be similar to the notion we talked about in the NFL. Can a running back, someone like DeAndre Swift from Georgia, get in the mix, or is it really just quarterbacks from Justin Fields, who's the transfer? He'll be at Ohio State. Is it someone from the West Coast? Can they overcome that bias? Probably not. I wanna say, oh, there's somebody that I have really off the radar, but honestly, it's just the way some of these teams compile stats. It's going to be tough to outdo these dual threat quarterbacks. When you look at Jalen Hurts, you look at Justin Fields, Tua and Trevor Lawrence, more prototypical pro quarterbacks, but the numbers they put up are outrageous. And it's hard to envision that they don't do that once again this year.
Jalen Hurts is intriguing.
Yeah, Oklahoma just apparently if you're the quarterback for Oklahoma, you just win the Heisman.
Right?
That's
10,
the
10 to
form.
1 right now.
I It's a tough ask. I would love to say I'm really high on Oregon this year. I would love to say Justin Herbert can get in that mix. I don't think that he can. And even someone like Swift, who I mentioned, a running back from Georgia, I like him, but it's tough ask to imagine that he can put up numbers just solely on the ground that can compete with the quarterbacks.
That's fair.
But like I said, we will keep going. I plan to actually write a little primer in the next week talking about some of the Heisman bets. I have not placed any. I'll probably take a couple guys, nothing too serious, but just for fun out there and see if we can get someone who maybe has a big year in the college ranks for us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Find that
It's gonna
Kyler.
be fun.
It's going to be great. It's a great time of the year. We've got golf is winding down only to start back up in a couple weeks. It's ridiculous. And then once NFL and college football, it's all systems go. So anything else you want to say before we duck on out of here on a nice Friday and get the people closer to the weekend?
No, just like make sure it's fantasy draft season. Make sure you check out Alex's Awesemo Baker's rankings. He just released them on our Draft Central page, and some interesting takes there. We actually did a Q&A because you kind of want to get some reasoning behind some of the projections. Like DeAndre Hopkins is much lower than most people have him, but I value rankings like that because I think so few people in the industry take a stand and they just sort of republish consensus rankings, right? So this is a data-driven approach, synthesizing millions of data points, and this is what the data spits out. It's not necessarily that you don't take DeAndre Hopkins if he's there at 21 in your draft, which you won't be. It's just that you should maybe consider fading him for other players. So check those out. There's some interesting takes, some really good options for your best ball leagues too. So and then we're finishing up our team previews this week. Ben's given his betting takes and. Yeah, lots of football content coming. We got some big announcements soon. So
we really do. And yeah, just to add on to that, one of the things I like about the stuff that we have is a lot of it's really atypical from what I would do. And it doesn't mean, when I see it that it's just, oh, I'm going to blindly use this. It's just another data point that I have. And it's just a different where I say, man, maybe I'm not seeing this right. And then I make my own decision where I say, okay, you know what? I'm going to stick with my evaluation. Or I say, I'm going to lower him a bit because this is a really interesting narrative that I haven't considered when I look at the data in this way, which is really the best way to do things.
Yeah, and there are players that you don't necessarily need to even reach on. Like Marquise Lee is one of his is the outlier I think that stands out the most. I think he is projected like around 65th you don't need to take Marquise Lee at 65th. You take him in the last round of your best ball drafts, and he's free. So maybe you get a bargain there. Maybe the projections are right, and that could be a league winner for you. So yeah, worth checking out.
Definitely. And certainly with best ball, obviously we've put some content together on that. That's a whole different strategy where you're really looking for that ceiling. And that can be a great tool of you're just really looking for, if I get it right, what is my dividend? Some of these guys have higher floors, but that's really not what you're doing, especially if you're vying for the giant tournament over on draft. It's, you need to connect all the dots.
It's true. It's true.
You're in there, right?
Yeah, I'm in a lot of them for sure. I think I've drafted 80 teams so far. So, but one of the takeaways, I just tweeted this out, and we'll get out of here quick. But one of the takeaways I have so far is I think the most important edge you can find thus far is the time of day you draft. And I've noticed that a lot lately. When you do a draft on Tuesday morning, it's a bunch of fantasy football writers sitting around in their underwear doing a draft. When you do a draft on Friday night or Thursday night, you're getting the casual fans who are like having a beer going, hey, it's Friday, I got nothing going on, I'll do a draft. And those have been my best teams so far. So just something to consider if you're going to do some best ball.
See, there you go. Little edges to make all the difference. But like I said, Nolan, I owe you another one for jumping on. You're always subbing in.
I got great to be here.
Doing real life things. So we're going to get out of here, but we do appreciate everyone in chat, everyone taking a look. Obviously, we hope you join Slack. We have plenty more content coming out in front of the paywall, but also behind the paywall. So sign on up. As always, if you have any questions, let us know. Find us on Twitter. Have a great weekend, my friend. Me and Jordan will be back next week, probably breaking down in full week 1 lines, and I will be ranting about college football. So stay tuned for that. Good luck, everyone. Enjoy the week, and we will see you next Friday.